There we go.
Ryan O'Halloran and Phillip Heilman, Florida Times Union, covering the Jaguars. We're at the TU compound on Riverside Avenue where it's just started raining. Jaguars got off the field about 2 hour, maybe hour 45 minutes ago. And we'll go here for a couple minutes. We got here early for a meeting. And we decided to go in and do any work.
So what happens when you're in the playoffs?
Yeah.
All of a sudden people want to have meetings.
Some breaking news over the last hour and a half is it was right toward the end of the locker room. Phillip wanted to talk to Blair Brown, the linebacker, who will start if Paul Posluszny's hip abdominal injury doesn't allow him to play. Well, we went through the whole locker room, and there's no Blair Brown. And usually you see him around a lot because he's a rookie, he doesn't really know any better. But then toward the end of the locker room, comes in on crutches and a boot on his left ankle. Yeah. And we looked at each other and say, okay, that's Blair Brown. And so Phillip asked him what happened.
Yeah, he said he was working during practice in a punt situation, and it sounded like he was trying to, I thought he said get around Charlie Miller, which, so I was unsure which player he was, but he took a wrong step during practice, rolled the ankle. Either said he was going to get an MRI or already had one. I think he was going to get an MRI because practice, x-rays, and practice had just ended. So, yeah, it didn't look good. Talked to him, asked, kind of, how he was feeling, and clearly he was very disappointed. Said he felt like he was in line to have, a pretty heavy involvement in Sundays, particularly if, Posluszny can't go. So you hate to see that for a young guy, but it definitely leaves the Jaguars kind of thin at linebacker.
Yeah, they're running out of linebackers. Not practicing today, Paul Posluszny. Not practicing today, Telvin Smith with an ankle. Then Brown goes down. Okay, that leaves Miles Jack, Donald Payne, and Laurenti McCray, who's more of an edge rusher than a linebacker, as your three healthy linebackers. Telvin's told you guys during that group session he intends to play Sunday. I've been told the same thing. Posluszny was doing some side field work with his stretching. We'll see what happens there. The key thing for the Jags is, they're going to play a ton of nickel, so you need Telvin back. But in base situations, having Paz back would be good. But one interesting thing, I finally got around to watching the tape last night, was when Paz went out, Telvin Smith played the mic. I think that's fascinating because Miles Jack is supposed to be the future middle linebacker of this franchise. They kept Miles, as a nickel will in a base Sam. But although it looked like Blair Brown was playing the base Sam to me, but maybe we'll figure that out later. But other injury news: Aaron Colvin still with that illness. He was walking around the locker room, but I wasn't going to get close to him. And then Jadon Mickens was doing some side field work with that hamstring. He told us after the game he looks like he feels he should be able to play against Pittsburgh. So, any questions rolling in so far?
Yeah, we have a couple here. See if I can get this loaded. The first question is do you think the cold will impact the Jags, and how so if it does?
Well, it didn't impact them against Cleveland. The Browns finished 0-16. That day was windy. It was raw. The temperature wasn't as cold as it will be this week. That experience will help. Tennessee, very cold. The sun went down by the end of the second quarter. Guys just looked out of sorts. Granted, had nothing to play for. As Doug Marrone said, and you're going to have in your notebook coming up, the big key is the wind, because that impacts your game plan and impacts your kicking game. And if it's going if it's going like across the field, you need to deal with it. If it's going from one end zone to the other, right now 10 to 12 mile an hour winds forecasted. That impacts. It doesn't impact whether you defer, but I think maybe later in the game whether you decide to play field position. So the weather could have an impact, but I think the opponent will have the bigger impact.
Yeah, I think it was 38 degrees to kick off in Cleveland, 23 in Tennessee, and the high for Sunday is 21, something like that, 19?
19, 21. So it's going to be, if it's windy, then it's going to be cold. If the wind dies down a little bit, it'll still be cold, but guys will be able to manage it.
Next question. Who gets a majority of the receiver snaps this week, and what are their options for picking up free agent linebackers in the postseason? Well, I don't think that's going to really do much for them at this point.
No, I think they got a couple of guys on practice squad that if need be. As far as the receiver playing time, Keelan Cole didn't play as much as he usually does. That was interesting. Alan Hearns, D.D. Westbrook is. Let's face it, D.D. is now their number one.
Right.
By default.
Yes.
Keelan's like sort of a home run here at this point. You know, the fact that Dede was the only receiver to catch any passes against Buffalo would signify why he's a number one out of that group. But maybe expect Lee to take a step forward this week. Maybe expect Hearns to take another step forward this week. Here's the thing, though. These guys got to get open. There's a reason why Blake Bortles was able to scramble for 88 yards. Nobody was open. Yeah. He wants to throw it. He couldn't, so he took off running.
Yeah, I was asking John about this yesterday, just if Keelan Cole has lost the confidence that Blake Bortles once had in him. You know, in Tennessee or San Francisco, there were clearly some mix-ups that led to interceptions. Tennessee loses a fumble, then he's only targeted once. And a guy who seems to be pretty healthy, hasn't been on the injury report or anything like that. I mean, do you think it's to the point where, you know, maybe the game's gotten a little bit too big for him, or can he rally?
Yeah, you know, has he hit a wall? You know, maybe his legs are gone for the year. He's practiced a lot since rookie minicamp. You know, teams, you don't see teams devoting an extra guy to him. They're not playing like a, you know, high safety to ward against the deep ball. I would probably try him on some different routes.
Yeah.
That said, when he caught that shallow crosser against Tennessee, he fumbled. Great play by Adoree Jackson, but a turnover nonetheless. Coming to this game, I'd get him involved with some shots down the field early.
A lot of questions about Blake. Why is he so up and down? What does the future look like for him? Is his future with the Jags? I thought you wrote a good story in Sunday, but it's almost kind of a week-by-week thing, it feels like.
Yeah, and it feels that way. The only two caveats are they may have already made their decision that he's playing out the option. They may have already made this decision that they're moving on from him.
Yeah.
You know, another decision would be that they are going to say, hey, you want to come back at a different number that isn't $18 million guaranteed. So something for him to think about. If people say, well, he won't turn down that, well, he may not have a choice.
Right.
If the Jaguars, let's say the Jaguars offer him a 2-year deal worth $25 million and they guarantee the first year.
I think he takes that.
He takes it because if he turns it down, they'll say, bye-bye.
Right.
And he'll be getting somewhere $3.5 million as a backup somewhere. So that's those are some of the options they have at quarterback. We have a long time to break that down later.
Yeah, this team's in the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. Why are we already looking ahead to the offseason?
Well, some people in this media corps are working on their draft stuff.
Yeah, well, some people, I'd rather be at the draft. Some more Bortles questions. Is Allen Robinson going to be on the team next year? A guy who we started to see around the facilities a little bit more in the last couple of weeks. I think he posted on social media yesterday that he jumped off the ground for the first time since the surgery this week. Yeah,
and he's made the last couple of road trips, and I think Doug's rule is that you can stand on the sideline as long as you're not putting yourself in harm. Well, if you're in crutches and a knee brace, you shouldn't be out there. So you'll see Allen. You've seen Allen on the sideline some. I think he will be back. I don't think they'll tag him because that's not really cost friendly. So his decision is: does he stay in the offense he is comfortable with? 1-year deal, 2-year deal, 1 year prove it. Does he care who the quarterback's going to be? So is there a team out there that will act like the ACL didn't happen? That would surprise me.
Yeah, I think that'll be.
But might there be a team that says, hey, we got a ton of cap space in San Francisco, and says, okay, you're coming off an ACL, let's go 4-30. Let's go 3-27.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go 3-20, and then maybe tear it up after a year. Something that A-Rob has to consider. I think he's a priority, has to be a priority, because you've seen the passing game without him.
Yeah, I think that, if I'm the Jags, is what concerns me, is does a team like San Francisco, which I've already seen some of their, beat writers and stuff kind of talking about now that their season's over, do they swoop in and just say, hey, we'll give you, $12 million a year for 3 years, and then it leaves the Jags in a really bad spot where we say, okay, well, maybe this guy's not going to be fully healthy next season. Because for the first time, the Jags aren't really going to have a ton of money this offseason like they have in the past.
They're going to brag about how they have all this cap space and they're free to spend. I don't believe that for a second, because you have a lot of stuff to plan for with contracts for the next 2-3 years, including somebody who is probably going to want to be and will become the highest paid quarterback in pro football. That's going to take up a chunk of your cap.
Yep.
Yannick Ngakoue, Miles Jack,
they have a decision to make on Fowler soon.
Fowler. I wouldn't pick up that option. But so they have to allocate some resources. So you may not see them spending a lot of money this offseason, but so they can save that for the future.
Anthony wants to know, we led the league in rushing. What happened to the O-line?
Whew. I'm sorry for yawning.
How much time do you have?
Yeah. It's broken. We may have been the first to call that. It was probably 6-7 weeks ago. Leonard Fournette's health is obviously an issue. What you see is guys getting beat one-on-one. What you see is unblocked players. What you see is Leonard Fournette looking not healthy, not assertive, and getting stopped 1-2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. So last week it was my suggestion to have a game plan against the Bills of throwing it early to get a lead. Instead, Jags waited for the game to come to them and almost cost them. This week, I'll say it again. We're on the road. Open it up a little bit. Don't be so conservative. See if you can get a lead against Pittsburgh. Because if you get a lead against Pittsburgh, get the crowd out of the game, you get Steelers thinking, okay, is this a repeat of Week 5?
Right. I will give Nathaniel Hackett a little bit of credit in that he called up a good play on the slant to Fournette on the first series, and Fournette drops the ball. You don't think that one of your better offensive players is going to drop a play that could have gone for 40, 50, 60 yards potentially.
Yeah, and that shows you what he thought of the run game.
Right.
It's okay, we got to get this kid some touches via the passing game. My thing was, it was first drive of the third quarter. They come out, they hit Dede for 20 on an in-breaking route. Mm-hmm. Okay, they finally got a chunk play. They finally got some momentum. Throwaway screen. Corey Grant, one player away from having a big run, but still a 3-yard game. And then on 3rd and 7, you're on a receiver screen to Dede. You can't win the game 3-3. I think if Doug Marrone had to point out one area where they got a little tight as a play caller, that would have been the one.
That, and I think after Aaron Colvin's interception, where you go
terrible.
I think it was screen to Ivory, screen to Mercedes Lewis, and then another maybe a run that didn't go anywhere.
So it's rare for this team to not cash in on takeaways, especially when you get it in plus territory. So if that happens again this week against Pittsburgh, look for. I would fully expect the Jaguars to be a little more aggressive.
Jason and Chris pretty much have the same question, which is, should the team start throwing more on first down, which we kind of talked about, but does that sort of just go against what Hackett has tried to build with this team, and that they want to be able to run and make it 2nd and 6?
Well, it is. They're still amongst the tops in 1st and 10 run yardage, so they do it a lot. But when it's not working, okay, what's your next move? I thought one of Nate's best design calls was that fake jet sweep, pitch to Leonard Fournette, who got 16 yards. If you're going to run it, I think you got to see some more originality, some more new stuff to see. Hey, you're not just going to run Leonard Fournette between the tackles every time. You're going to go try and get teams on their heels or flowing the wrong way, and then Leonard can bring it upfield.
Yeah, it's funny. Early in the season, it just everybody was so content with running Leonard off guard, off tackle, that sort of thing. But
here's the thing: is they always say the run game. It's 3, it's 2, it's 15, it's 2, it's 29. Well, here it's going -1, 0, 1, 3, 4, -2. Those aren't adding up. So I think it's broken beyond repair for this year. So that's where we're at.
I think we've gotten through a lot of repeat questions here. Want to just plug anything that's going to be in the Times-Union and on Jacksonville.com the rest of this week?
Sure. Tomorrow's paper, I write about Blake Bortles. John Reed writes about defending Le'Veon Bell. Phillip will have some notes with some good stuff in there. For Friday, we have Phillip's story on the 07 playoffs. Jaguars at Steelers. He's talked to Brad Meester, David Garrard. He talked to Brian Sexton earlier today about that game, and chiefly Garrard's 4th down run. And then
a lot of good stuff from him.
Yeah. So then, also for Friday, John will have Antonio Brown and Jalen Ramsey, probably the marquee matchup of the game. Just give you a preview of Sunday's game. As Barry Church said to me about this free agent class, him, Boye, Campbell, this is the weekend. This is why they signed him. 2nd round of the playoffs. They all have playoff experience. Class has Super Bowl experience. They signed these guys to make a good defense great and to turn around this franchise. And that's what those 3 guys have done. How have they done it? We sort of dig into that on Sunday.
I've grown to really like Barry Church. It seems like when you talk to him, he's very insightful. He has some good stuff on Juju today, which will be another story that we have coming for the weekend, just to look more. Man, the Steelers have so many offensive weapons. I think it's going to be.
We're going to have to plug your story.
Yeah.
Yeah. watch for Smith-Schuster. I think he's going to be a factor because you got to figure Antonio Brown's not going to be 100%. What's going to be fascinating chess move is early game. If Antonio Brown doesn't look like himself, do the Jaguars assign Ramsey to Smith-Schuster? I think they will because he's comfortable moving all over the field.
Yeah.
So, Times Union in Pittsburgh this weekend. Myself, John, Gene, Phillip's making the trip.
Gene, don't forget Gene. He'll be there.
Where are you staying? I'm staying in my car. Phillip's going up Friday. He's going to have some coverage in Sunday's paper, just getting what's going on in Pittsburgh. He's finding a Jaguars fan. So if you are a fan who's going to Pittsburgh and you're going to be there on Friday or Saturday, shoot Phillip an email, phillip.heilman@Jacksonville, and maybe he can meet up with any kind of Jaguars party, get some insight from there. So that's it for Phillip Heilman. I'm Ryan O'Halloran, Florida Times Union. We did a 16-minute Facebook Live. Appreciate the questions. Take care now.